for me, the most important thing is making sure that the people that I coach, A, enjoy it, B, don't get injured, and C, have a great time when they're racing.
Hello and welcome to Triathlonology, a triathlon podcast by Animis Racing Team. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Jackie. We are a mum and son coaching team who have changed our lives through the sport of triathlon.
Our podcast aims to break down the mysteries of triathlon training and show you, the listener, how simple and flexible it can be so that it really does become part of your lifestyle and not just a hobby. Hello and welcome to another episode of Triathlonology.
I'm Coach Jackie.
And I'm Coach Oliver, and today the purpose of this podcast is to give hints, tips, advice, anecdotes about our life in triathlon with a no-nonsense Yorkshire twist. Today's podcast, we're going to talk about one of my favourite sayings. I wrote a blog post about this. I don't know where it's gone. Probably lost to the internet forever, unless you know how to look at things on the Wayback Web machine, which I don't. That's an Italian football manager from the 1990s called Arrigo Sacchi, who managed AC Milan to several Scudettos and a Champions League win, and also then managed the Italian national team at the 1994 World Cup. And he said, I never realised you had to be the horse to be the jockey. And the reason why he'd said that was because he got a lot of criticism from the Italian papers because he had been a shoe salesman, had never played professional football, and had just come up through the ranks as a coach and ended up as managing AC Milan, who were probably one of the biggest teams in Europe in that time, and was getting a lot of criticism based on his lack of experience as a professional.
Well, as we know, I think it's one of the things that Oliver and I, it really annoys us both of us, because there's a perception in triathlon that unless you've done a triathlon, unless you've done a Ironman, you can't coach an Ironman.
Well, unless you've been
at the pointy end,
a very good triathlete, you're not a very good coach, which is just not correct, because there are lots of professional coaches who are very good and who have never even done a triathlon, or certainly not won an Ironman or anything like that, or been anywhere near to being a professional. And well, we'll come on to the difference between having a coach who is a professional triathlete and somebody who is a professional coach.
Yeah, definitely.
But nevertheless, the purpose of this podcast will be to advance our theory that you don't have to be the horse to be the jockey. And how we came up with talking about it this week is long-time readers will know that we're both Sheffield Wednesday supporters and have a season ticket. And our new German manager, well, not really new anymore, is he? He's been here 6 months.
Yeah. 6 months?
Yeah, coming October, didn't he? Near enough.
Is that 6 months?
Near enough.
Anyway.
And German manager Danny Röhl has, again, never played professional football, but has been a coach since he's been 18 and worked his way through all the system and ended up as being assistant manager for Bayern Munich and the German national team before he became Sheffield Wednesday manager. And as we were leaving, we were talking about what had made Sheffield Wednesday rapidly turn around their fortunes.
From Disco, man.
Yeah, from Disco Inferno, which is Cisco Muniz, who brandishes his UEFA Cup winners medal and gets gigs on the basis of that. And we determined that basically it's that here's a guy as a coach who knows what he wants, is able to communicate it exactly to his players so that they understand what they're supposed to do.
And can carry it out.
Yeah. So it's clear instruction on how he wants them to play or how he wants them to form as a unit or a set piece or whatever it might be. He's able to consistently and clearly communicate that to his athletes, which is a massive difference. Well, there's a difference there, isn't there, between somebody who is a good coach but has no idea how to get his ideas from his head or from his notebook to the athletes that he's coaching.
Yeah, or even of a former player who's been highly successful, but is absolutely tripe as a coach.
We could probably name some of them.
Yeah, well, Wayne Rooney. Alan Ball, one of my favourite players, and nobody will remember him, but Alan Ball was probably the best midfielder England have ever had. And he was a rubbish manager, as was Bobby Charlton. Anyhow.
Yeah, there's a different skill set altogether from being an athlete to being a coach. And some people can do. I mean, there are some athletes who do become successful coaches, but it's a very different. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti, probably the best example I can think of off the top of my head. But Alex Ferguson as well, another person who played professional football. But there are certainly more and more professional coaches becoming a thing in other sports, like football now. And you can think, well, Danny Rowe at Sheffield Wednesday, but then you look at something like Tuchel at Bayern Munich, who wasn't a footballer as such. There's, the list is growing.
Yeah, and in triathlon, there's a lot more really, really successful coaches who have never done a triathlon.
Yeah.
Or maybe only a local one.
Or never certainly done anything to a high level anyway.
Definitely.
No. And I mean, you can rattle them off with Paulo Sousa, Joe Filiol, Matt Dixon.
They're the most famous ones.
Yeah, they're probably the most famous ones.
What's his name in Australia? D Squad.
Oh, Darren Smith, yeah. All those who literally have world champions across every distance in their squads, or they have coached previously in their squads. Because it's the difference between knowing how to coach and knowing how to do the event, or being a good athlete. And being a good athlete doesn't automatically mean that you'll be a good coach. It's a completely different set of skills that you need, really.
It is, and we see people all the time just thinking, I'll go with this person because they've had X, Y, and Z results as an individual athlete themselves. Well,
it's no guarantee that they'll be able to get you to that point. One of several things. One, can they articulate sufficiently what their coaching is to improve you? But B, you might not have their genetics. They can be very good genetically, or have a lot of time to commit to training that you just don't have. And that's what makes them good, rather than their ability to do a session or to plan a session and follow it through. And there are probably other professional triathletes who would be much better with a coach guiding them than trying to coach themselves.
Yeah, because I mean, think about I'm trying to think his name. A Canadian, Lionel Sanders.
Yeah.
Although he's not, has he now got himself a coach?
I mean, he flips between having a coach and not having a coach.
But I think he must be a bit crazy.
But his best results have come when he's had a coach.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to try and work out how to batter himself every day, and somebody looked after him a bit better.
Yeah, or get to be like a Biafran.
Yeah.
So that he's so lean that he's got no, because he was on a fad about his diet, didn't he? What was he on? Keto or something like that? I don't know. But he was like a skeletal. He was skeletal. And he had terrible results. He's got no blinking, no body fat, no reserves that he could call on in a race, which you all know that you need.
Especially longer you
go, the more reserves that you need. So it's not always a good thing to be like a stick insect.
No. And what you want from a coach is somebody who understands what they're doing, but also can help you understand what you need to do, and can then make you feel like you know what you're doing. They're two different things. Getting you to understand what you're doing and know what you're doing are two separate things. And they also have to have empathy for your situation, because quite often most people that do triathlon have a job.
And usually they've got quite an important job or a high-up job. Or
a family.
Yeah.
And if you are being coached by a professional triathlete whose job is literally to do triathlon, how do they have any idea of whether the sessions that they've done or they've written are going to work for your circumstances?
Yeah, well, if you've got a baby that won't go to sleep, or a baby that wakes you up in the night, or
You've got to go to parents' evening,
yeah,
or you've got to take your kids to football on a Saturday or a Sunday, or both.
Yeah.
Or swimming or gymnastics. How do you fit? Or, and they just go, well, I get up in the morning and I go and train, mate, and then I go to bed and I have my tea. I go to have my tea and I go to bed, and that's it. It's very different, very, very different from having a real life.
Yeah, because we always say it should be a hobby. It's not your job. Your job is to look after your family and to be a good employee or
Business owner
or whatever.
If you're a professional triathlete or somebody who is a professional exerciser rather than necessarily a professional triathlete, so it could be somebody who's retired or is fortunate enough that they don't have to work, one or the other. Or they have a job that requires them to be fit, and they get paid to do training and be fit for that job. Be it like Bronte on Life Gladiators this week.
Oh yeah.
If you don't know what Gladiators is, Google it. It's not the film with Russell Crowe in it, anyway.
BBC Saturday night.
It's a very different set of circumstances to what you might be in, and you've got to, and the whole, like, one of the tenets of coaching is to have empathy with your athletes, to understand their situation. And if you have just got somebody who's always been a professional triathlete or been a professional exerciser or been paid to keep fit, how can they necessarily understand that you can't just go and slip out in the middle of the day for a 2-hour bike ride because you've got to go and do your job? And then when you get home, you've got family responsibilities to take before you can do your training, or you've got to juggle that and do your training, and then you've still got to eat and go to bed. You don't have a chance to have a rest in the afternoon like everybody else. So that's the job.
Yeah, it's something that you've really got to consider.
And going back to the not having to be the host to be the jockey point, but as we keep saying, it's a completely different set of skills. To be a professional athlete requires you to be, and to be good at it, requires you to be single-minded, determined, and be selfish.
Yeah.
To be a coach is everything other than that. You can't be selfish because you've got to look after your group. You've got to treat your individual athlete as an individual and work with them in their circumstances. And there are, lots of examples where, like Maurizio Sarri was a bank manager before he became a professional football manager and managed Chelsea and Napoli and what have you. So it's not, and he'd never been a footballer. He came up with the same sort of like nonsense. Well, how do you know what it's like to be a football manager when you've not actually played? Well, I don't need to, do I? Because I know how to play football. I understand how it's governed, and I can tell these people who are my athletes, I would like you to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how we're going to do it, or this is this training session that we're going to do.
And this will help you get to X, Y, and point in the match, or when we do this free kick or whatever.
This pattern of play or whatever it is, yeah. Or it's exactly the same. Like I can sketch it out and I know what this looks like. I can run you through it. I don't need to have done it myself. We just not a thing. I mean, when you go to, if you instruct any professional you don't have to be in a, would you'd pay a professional, somebody who knows what they're doing to do the job, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would.
It doesn't necessarily matter what their athletic ability is, but their coaching skill set is a completely different thing altogether.
I mean, as like 98% of triathletes are amateurs, and are just like what I call weekend warriors, what have you, and you just want to be the best you can be, then you should be looking for someone who's got empathy, who has got good knowledge and can get that knowledge over to you in a way that you understand and that you can carry out. Not whether you've won, this Ironman, you've won this 70.3, you've annihilated this person or whatever. No, it's not that at all. Because how is that going to make you better?
It's often the same about other things, but it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. You can't do, if you're an amateur triathlete with a job, the sessions that a professional triathlete can do. And as a coach, it's your ability, it's your job to know how much can I give this person before they fall over, or before I can increase their aerobic capacity or their anaerobic capacity without breaking them.
I mean, I remember reading Chrissy Wellington's book, No Limits, and she always spoke about, she used to be a really hard trainer before she became a professional. And the one thing that she learned early on was that a professional training incorporates rest and eating food, not starving yourself and not being going along at 100 mile an hour. It's just as important to have 2 hours in bed in an afternoon as it is to do a 3 hour ride.
Yeah, but you can't do it. You can't have 2 hours in bed in the afternoon if you've got a job.
No, so this is what we're saying, is the difference between being a professional athlete and being an amateur is quite considerable.
Yeah, you have to be able to tell, and as a coach, you have to be able to tell your sessions to the person that you are coaching, rather than say, here is a list of sessions that I have done, go and do them. And throw stuff against the wall and see which ones stick. Because that's not coaching, really, is it? It's not making people better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking back now at memories that I have on my Facebook and saying that, I packed in riding after 2.5 hours because I was cold and tired and freezing. I'm thinking, why were I riding for 2.5 hours outside in February?
And doing a sprint triathlon.
I'm doing a sprint triathlon. And being an older person, I don't know. Well, I do know, but hey,
So, yeah, it's just... Yeah, so it doesn't... What you should be looking for in a coach is, as we keep saying, is people who are empathetic, who understand where you're coming from, but also who can coach.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the same as somebody who does triathlon. Because there are lots of people who do triathlon who can't coach. Then equally, I am not as good as those people, but I can coach. I understand it, and I can put things in place. I will never win an Ironman. I will never win a 70.3. I'll probably never even podium in one. Am I bothered? No, I can coach.
And also,
I do my best.
I mean, I'm a bit different to Oliver in that there's not as many people in my races, so it's a bit easier to podium and what have you, which I have done. But for me, the most important thing is making sure that the people that I coach, A, enjoy it, B, don't get injured, and C, have a great time when they're racing.
Yeah, that's what you want to look out for. And if they then win, great.
Fantastic, because there's no... When your athlete wins, it's better than when you win.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you are more nervous when your athlete is competing than when you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just... It's crazy, really, but it is absolutely true, because you've been through all their trials and tribulations. You know what they're going through now on the race, and you really want them to succeed. And
largely, it's genetics. Like if you're genetically made up correctly, then you'll win, or you can really excel at a sport. But if you're not, you can be good, but you're not going to reach that top step. And it's the same when people talk about on Instagram where you shouldn't be comparing how you look to how other people look on Instagram because it's all fake. In a sense, it's similar to that in triathlon, because you can't compare yourself to Rudy von Berg or older people, Craig Macker or people like that, or Jan Frodeno, because they are literally genetic freaks. They were always going to be good at the endurance sport, and they trained hard and they were good at it. But it doesn't matter. You can do Jan Frodeno's training, you'll end up broken.
Yeah, you definitely
you won't end up winning at Kona or winning an Olympic gold medal because you just don't have his genetics.
Well, and also, like you're reading up magazines about Norwegians training and what have you, and everybody wants to do Norwegians training. Well, you would not be able to do it. It'd just kill you.
Well, largely it involves going out for long periods of time, doing easy work, which again is fine if you ain't got a job.
But if
you've got an hour in the morning and then maybe 2 hours the next day, a morning and night, you can't do the sort of training that they do because we just don't have the time in the day.
No. So our thoughts are, you've got to weigh up what's best for you. and what fits in with your lifestyle and your family.
And don't be seduced by somebody who's got a good palmares, as they say in cycling, a list of results that are impressive, because that's them as an athlete, it's not them as a coach. What you should be looking at is their palmares as a coach. How many people have they made better compared to how many people they have coached?
Yes. It's all in the maths.
Because if you get, a couple of people who win stuff, great. But how many people have you coached during that period of time? Because they could be just genetically freaky as well, and everybody else has either got injured or not been as good.
Or got frustrated and packed it in.
Yeah.
So, a bit of a different topic this week, but we hope you understand where we're coming from, and that we do try and be different because we look after you, the athlete, rather than us, the coach.
Yeah, it's an athlete-centric coaching, and everybody's largely different to everybody else, and everybody's week's different from everybody else's, what they've got available to them. And it's about getting the most out of that you can, rather than just going, okay, well, you've got to go and do this now because that works for me. Well, it might not work for you, but that's the important thing to know. Yeah.
Does it work for you? So, that's all for this week.
Thank you very much. This has been another episode of Triathlonology, and until the next time, I'll see.
Thank you for joining us today.
See you next time.
See you then. Or as we say in Yorkshire, City.